What is up? I'm Jared Welch. He's Aaron Halterman. It is Thursday, March 16th, and this is Blinkers Off. What's up? Hey, welcome to March Madness, my friend.
Thank you. Yeah, we've got 2 games tipping off, so we're gonna get this podcast done. We can watch the rest of it today. Yeah, it's awesome already. We got a tight game already. The very first one, it's West Virginia and Maryland, and it's 30-30, almost halftime. So it's gonna be a crazy couple days, no doubt.
It's I don't know, I'm sure I'm not the only one, but I don't watch a ton of college basketball really all year, and then I guarantee you I'm gonna be pissed at some point. Be like, I can't believe I picked. It's like, I know, I didn't even look at the bracket till last night.
Well, then you can't be mad if you miss games.
Well, no, but it happens every year. I'll be pissed. Like, why did you pick that team? Oh, it's like, and everyone I think has like the inevitable friend or whatever. It's like, well, I had this team going all the way, and you're like, great.
Yeah.
If some upset, I have them. It's like if you had $1 for every time someone told you, well, I have them going all the way to Sweet 16. It's like, great. I mean, everyone's an expert, or has to show. It's like everyone. Remember back in the day when we hit you print out your brackets, right?
Yep.
You'd fill them out, and you'd be like, you'd have a sheet, you'd have a table or whatever, and you have them like, I'd have like 4, 5, 6 of them, and I'd go through and you'd find the one that was doing the best, and that's the one that you would tell. At least I look how good my bracket's doing.
Yep. Circle and X's.
Well, what's
Circle the winner, X the loser.
So you're a circle at X, or you're not a highlighter?
No, not a highlighter.
No. Okay, I've heard some debate on that. So
no,
it gets confusing, I think, if you highlight. Because then if you highlight, never mind. We'll get into that. So I get who's we appreciate everyone watching us. Obviously, it's one of the few times that we understand that there's probably better things to watch right now. But we appreciate you being here for Blinkers Off. And if you during the game, if you want updates, or if you guys got picks on the brackets, things like that. The Racing Dudes bracket, right? We have one of those going live right now as well. How many are in that?
What did I say? 117 entries. So yeah, we got going there for the prize pack. That should be fun as well. And like I said, it's just a really good 2 days of basketball here. These first 2 days of the tournament, always the best. You got all of them playing. And, I think it comes at a good week for us because no Derby preps this week.
It's in a lot of times it feels like it falls on the Rebel weekend, so it's always it's hard, and a lot of times we're there, so you're like trying to watch. But yeah, it's a good weekend. If you're going to have a weekend, it's a good weekend to have it going. And of course, we'll get back to things next week. We have it's a smaller weekend, like you said. We're going to do a little Derby update. We're going to talk about some racing action, rapid fire. But talking about a couple things. One, we'll get to Tapit Trice. I know that's a hot topic. We'll get to him in the Derby kind of portion of the show. But I wanted to people realize today's a big day, not just because of March Madness, but Creative Minister and Smile Happy running today. How about that? 2 horses that you guys probably forgot about. Smile Happy and Creative Minister running, both for McPeak at Oaklawn today. So thoughts on those 2 returning, dude?
I mean, I picked against both of them, but my pick scratched. So I had Congressman on top, but the 5-horse Congressman scratch. So I did go Smile Happy on top now. I definitely would not play Creative Minister in this spot at all. Smile Happy, yes, but because of the scratch, I didn't end up going with him. We'll see what happens. It's going to be an interesting race. You just never know. I thought the 7 for Ron Moquette, Speed Bias, had a big shot as well. So I kind of went 3-7 in that spot. We'll see what happens. But I was really looking forward to playing the 5 because I thought we'd get a pretty nice price. But I'll go Smile Happy now.
Man, there was a minute last year, about this time, I'd say last year, where Smile Happy was the horse, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, the Bluegrass not only, showcased some things for Emmanuel that day, but also for Smile Happy. I think everyone kind of came out of that, unless you're named Zandon, kind of came out of that thinking, okay, they're not very good.
You got to look at with Smile Happy. he ran twice last year in an odd like progression and got beat by Epicenter, but he ran second, and then he got beat by Zandon, but he ran second. Those horses did run 2-3 in the Kentucky Derby, and one of them ended up being the 3-year-old of the year. Smile Happy should win today if he's any good.
Well, you know my rule. I can't play him. I mean, just it's impossible. Both those horses are complete tosses for me, not because I don't think they're going to win. It's just that you can't play McPeak horse, especially hyped up horses like these. You're going to win more times. You're going to lose if you play those more times. You're going to win.
Yeah, and I mean, he was the favorite both times last year. You faded him and you won both times. And I was stupid enough to play him in Louisiana, but I dead faded him in the Bluegrass and went with Zandon, which is another horse that usually you should fade. But he caught the right field that day. He just had to beat Smile Happy. But again, I'll say it. He lost to two pretty good horses last year. There really aren't good horses. I mean, there's just like decent allowance level horses in this field. He should win, but you're right. He's going to be a short price, and, we'll kind of just have to see how he runs. He's got a lot of talent, so it's nice to see him back. I didn't know if he was going to return, so it's nice to see him around at least.
Well, and I read that, it was kind of like most people might be wondering, like, I guess, he didn't want to have them both there at the same time, but, or at least, running together in that same race, but it just the way it kind of fell. The allowance came up, and those two, they seem to fit at the same time. So, you got to think Noah McPeak, he's going to have, by the way, do you ever dream about me?
No.
Steve, I don't, I got to say, we've been doing this show. If you listen to this for a while, episode 600 was a few episodes ago. I mean, we're talking 10 years, 603 today. I don't know that I've ever seen a comment, someone tell me that they've had a dream about me. So I appreciate that.
That's a first.
That's a first. I don't know what to take of that. Interesting. Well, you don't have fans dreaming about you, so I know that much. So.
Well, I would change your locks, I think.
It's like, and I saw you outside working at your computer, and then okay, it's like you see him in the aside here coming. Anyways, Steve, thanks for watching. I think let's see, what is it? It's a halftime for that one game. Yeah, it's halftime. Yep. And Furman. You may got Furman beating Virginia.
Yeah, Samich's best bet of the day is Furman +6, and so down one early. That's
looking good though, right now. Anyways,
yep.
I always remember, so back in the day, for people that before racing dudes, I had a regular job,
right,
in a corporate environment, and very much, let's just say, not it's very, very, wear, ties and button ups and all that stuff. But this time of the year, somehow I got roped into being in charge of the brackets, and so it never felt like you'd be watching, because you couldn't watch it on the computer at work. And so I'd just be checking the scores, constantly refreshing. And as soon as a game got close, say inside 4 minutes or so, I would head to the break room and, and I would turn it, I'd have it on. And most of the times you'd have a few people in there watching because doing it for the same reason. But it was definitely exciting to watch, whenever you're at work. Again, I think that's a lot of times you have these, you have these random people, like the women and that don't watch sports ever, who put brackets in. They're like, I don't know, I had this team going on, and of course they're the ones that usually, or one year we had a girl, I remember she picked only the mascots, who she and she won. Because she said whatever the mascots were. And I think Shoddy, I think you did that, right? I think
Shoddy and Dennis were doing that last night. I read on Twitter. Yeah. So and that's what makes it fun, though. I mean, you study it all year, and then you get to this, and it becomes a little bit of a nightmare trying to get through this. And I was telling people all week, I like the day by day betting of it more than filling out the brackets. So because, for example, I have Virginia winning the game, but I've got Furman +6. So what's really important here? I get one spot farther in my bracket with Virginia, or I win the bet +6 with Furman,
Yeah. That's why I really, it's one of, honestly, and I think anyone is a better, it's got to be on your bucket list unless you've done it, is to go out to Vegas for March Madness, and not just March Madness, but the first two rounds. If you can, because I think that would just be, I mean, a bettor's paradise. But it's tricky to, because I haven't really been in that environment where you're like, I don't really care if my bracket moves forward. I just need to cover, It's a whole totally different, idea when you're out there to like you said, I don't care if Furman loses. I just need him to cover.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Like if they lose by 5, great. Furman's my favorite team today. And that's exactly what I meant by that is I think when you're a gambler, you don't, I'm not going to say you don't care about the brackets, but it is not even close to your first priority. Where if you're like Heather, she's like, fill out a bracket, like, great, I'm going to follow this thing all the way through. It's fun. I'm competing against you guys, but it's like, for me, it's like just cover Furman. I don't care, So, and like Michael said, yeah, we can't have both. Virginia can win and Furman can cover. And exactly. That's fine. Yeah.
If you can manage to pull that out, that's the exacta right here.
Yeah, exactly. But my priority is Furman, and if they win by 1, I'll be just as happy as they lose by 5.
It's the only time, dude. I had a hard time. And it will be the last we talk about well, no, it won't be, but for now, the last we'll talk about him. I had a hard time. I did pick Drake to go semi-far, but I had a hard time. I live in Springfield, Missouri State alumni. Missouri State beat him, Drake, this year. Mm-hmm. And it's like, I've had a hard time because I follow them, the Missouri State. And it's like, I had a hard time letting them go too far, Drake, just because of that. Did you, how far do you have Drake going?
I had Drake in the Sweet 16. Okay. I think they drew a good game, and I think they draw a good second game if they win the first. So I do like Drake quite a bit. Second game, yeah, but that's easy to do. Kind of get in the mindset of, hey, my team beat this team, so they can't go very far. My team beat Alabama. So thoughts on that? My team beat Alabama by like 25 points.
Are you talking about your team you picked, UCLA?
Huh? No, Oklahoma beat Alabama by 25 points, and Oklahoma's not even in the NIT.
See,
so that kind of is the rebuttal that I'm going to give you on that one.
No, and to be fair, I'm not saying like it's March Madness, anything can happen. But I think whenever you go into it, sometimes you have that in the back of your mind. ESPN has it's like you see like the big wins or big losses of the year. When they or whoever it was, and when you see lost to Missouri State. You're like, oh. But that just goes to show you any team in any day can win one of these things. So, all right. What do you say we get into? We're gonna do some, being a slower weekend. We don't have a official Derby prep, but we are gonna take a closer look and dish out some bold takes for the upcoming 2023 Kentucky Derby. Take a look at some of those upcoming prep races. Of course, pretty much from here on out, they're all big ones. So we're gonna take a closer look at some of those, and we're gonna give some rapid fire selections. For some stakes action this weekend at Gulfstream Park and Oaklawn Park. Let's go. Hey, Shoddy. I think I do too. I don't know. Is the Houston? Is that where the Final Four is at?
Yeah. Yep.
Then yeah, I do.
Yep.
Remember, who was it? Years ago. We were talking on the pod about what team betting some random ass school, not on the March Madness.
But what? Fairfield. Yeah.
Fairfield.
Yep.
And we had a listener which I don't even know. I hope if he does listen still.
I haven't heard from him.
But he's like, oh, I'm an alum, and he sent us like all these T-shirts and polos, really nice polos. And like Fairfield, and everyone, we'd be out and be like, who the fuck's Fairfield? You're like, my favorite team.
Yeah, no, I've still got it. I still got a polo in the closet. Yeah.
It's proof that we will wear anything.
Oh, totally. Yeah. If you're a fan of an obscure school, send me the polo. I will wear it.
Oh, one, yes, it's true. Two, he's probably heard of them. So
or
They'll
bet
definitely
them.
wear them.
I've definitely bet them. I don't know if I've heard of them.
Well, you've heard of them then.
I know.
That's what I had a buddy of mine who watches a lot of our content and our shows, and he's like, it was one of the during like the live or the Dudes Bet Daily, and he's like, it was some team that Dr. Tang had given out, and he's like, who's watching this? Who's watching? I was like, these guys do. They're degenerates. That's what they are.
Yeah, the obscure basketball games, sometimes you can really find some lines that are a little bit mispriced. And so you take advantage of those. That's why you see Papa Dude and Dr. Tang pick a lot of those games on the Daily Show is, you can find some little, I don't know what the word is, little issues with the lines. And if you've paid attention and you're watching, then you can take advantage of it.
Yeah, I agree. All right. Let's see. What do you guys? Well, just if you have questions, you have comments. Obviously, Derby stuff here. We're going to talk Kentucky Derby. We're going to talk about the upcoming races. We'll talk about some bold statements that we like, bold kind of opinions that we like. So leave your comments here. We'll try to answer them the best that we can. All right, Halterman, we're just a few weeks left of this Kentucky Derby prep season. It's insane to think that we are really in the final stretch here of prep races. When we get back next week, March 25th, we've got 3 preps: the UAE Derby, the Jeff Ruby Stakes, and the Louisiana Derby. 100-point prep races from here on out, other than the Sunland Derby and the Lexington. One's 50, the Lexington's 20 for the winners of those races. But yeah, from here on out, essentially, you're talking, you win, you're 100% in. You get second, you're 100% in. And we have a bunch of horses as we sit here today, March 16th, that are completely, the definition of bubble horses that we don't know what they are. Maybe they had a big performance at one point. Can they bounce, or can they show that they are a legit horse? As we sit here getting into, we'll call it like the halftime, essentially, as we get into halftime of these prep races, things you're looking at. What are your thoughts? Some of the opinions you have that you may have changed since then, since seeing those prep races.
Well, I think you kick it off with a really important one right off the bat. You've got the Louisiana Derby next weekend, and I really do think it's important because you got a rematch between Instant Coffee and Red Route 1, as Red Route 1 will reroute to the Louisiana Derby. And, you go all the way back to the Kentucky Jockey Club and you rewatch that race. If Red Route 1 gets a clean trip, does he win in that spot? A lot of people think so, and I think you might be right about that as well. If you have that opinion, who's gotten better? We got a bit of a rematch. Can Red Route 1 actually pick up that big win? I think that's going to be really important to watch. Or can Instant Coffee stay down that road and win the 3rd straight race? I think that Louisiana Derby is the first one on the schedule that really stands out as this is important, and we could really learn a lot from it.
Well, yeah, that's the big one, right? It definitely is, because and it definitely feels like I don't know what it is. Like, and we've been saying this for a while now. It seems like for whatever reason, all these horses that you thought maybe had an opportunity, like in the Tampa Bay Derby, it's like everyone keeps pointing to the Louisiana Derby, and I don't know if it's because of the distance, the timing, or what. But you're seeing a lot of horses, especially those horses that are all kind of, what are they, all pointing to this race with Instant Coffee kind of the leader of that. But then you've got like you said, Red Route 1, but even like King's Barnes, what is he for Todd Pletcher? Jason's Road, if he, what is he? We haven't seen him forever. It feels like, some of these horses. Disarm sounds, I don't know. Disarm is either going to the Arkansas Derby or the Louisiana Derby. I haven't seen officially. But this feels like it's one of those races that you would think, and we've said this a lot, you would think we're going to learn a lot about these horses in this race.
Yeah, you don't even mention Angel of Empire, who might go here, might go to the Bluegrass. That's the other thing with the Cox horses. They're all mites. You just never really know who's going where, other than Instant Coffee. You got a good feeling that he's going to go to Louisiana Derby. This race is actually going to draw Saturday, so we'll have a good indication very quickly coming up here on Saturday, who's going where. But yeah, it certainly is just kind of a wide open kind of scramble in these last 3 weekends. And you got to learn something here for sure. And like I said, I really think Instant Coffee is that horse that he's kind of hanging in the balance a little bit because yes, he won the Jockey Club. Yes, he won the Lecompte, but this is different. Like he skipped the second round of prep. So this is like the biggest race of his life so far. What will he do when he's facing a big field here with horses that have started since he's last run? I think he's really interesting because I think just by default, he sits up there in third, but I don't think anybody's like 100%. Oh, he's a slam dunk, to be in the top 5.
Well, and we didn't know, like, Victory Formation was one where you're like, he's a slam dunk horse. Like he's really good. You can tell he's going to be really good. And he was awful. And now he's just, he's going to try to rebound again in the Arkansas Derby, it sounds like. But, these horses, like Instant Coffee, like Angel Empire. I mean, really, it's for the most part, it's Brad Cox horses trying to figure out. And I think we're at the point now where it's like, well, we kind of know what all these horses are. It seems like we got to figure out if there's any of these that are really good. Like, is Instant Coffee really good? Can he make a case, like you said, kind of to be a legit Derby winner? Like I look at that group in Louisiana Derby, and while it might be competitive, it might be somewhat deep. I don't know yet. I don't know that there's a Derby winner in there yet. I need to. That's why this race is so important.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely right. And I don't know what to make of those races down at Fairgrounds so far in any division. It's kind of been weird on their big days a little bit. Even the race Instant Coffee won, you don't sit there and go, wow, well, that was something amazing, So it was solid, and he's just been real solid. So yeah, that kicks it off. But as we go down this road, other than the Florida Derby, everything else is pretty damn wide open, if you ask me. I mean, Forte on the Florida Derby, okay, he's got that on lock, let's say. Go Santa Anita, like practical move. He's done it once. He's stretching out. Can he be that dominant again? Arkansas is a total crapshoot at this point. Like, is Reincarnate the favorite there? I don't know. Bluegrass, pretty wide open. You don't even know who's going to really be there yet. And the Wood, who knows who's going to show up. So it gets a little bit funky. Louisiana Derby, you do have that headliner Instant Coffee. The rest of them, I'm still pretty darn skeptical on what's going to happen.
Well, let's go through some of these. And a lot of comments that are coming through here, so I'll try to answer a few of them. And we kind of use those to get into some opinions. Well, Nick has a bold take for me with the Derby. Fantastic again is going to wire the Jeff Ruby in style, gear down, and he will be my top pick for the Kentucky Derby.
That's a bold statement.
I mean, that's as bold as it gets. Thoughts on the synthetic horse going gate to wire in the Kentucky Derby?
Well, synthetic horse won the Derby last year, so you got that going for you for sure. A synthetic horse has won the Derby before with Animal Kingdom, so you do have some track record of that happening. I would be a bit surprised if Fantastic again wins the Kentucky Derby as we sit here today. Jeff Ruby's going to be interesting. He's going to be one of the horses to look for in that race. I've also read where Two Phils is going to that race. I think he will end up being the favorite there. Major Dude's going to go there. I don't know what to make of that, but I think you took it one step too far. If he's your Jeff Ruby horse, I think you sit here and go, well, that makes sense. Hopefully you get a little bit of a price. As far as Fantastic again going gate to wire in the Derby, it does seem extremely unlikely to me at this point.
All right, so thank you, Nick. We'll use his crazy ass statement for a transition into what is a good topic. And Christopher wants to know, have we talked about the absolute lack of pace yet? That's a very good point. And it's something that I think we need to be looking for in these last preps, trying to find out, because there really isn't, Halterman. There's no, a lot of times most years, right, you've got a Baffert horse who we know is really fast on the front end, or there's at least one horse that is going to go to the lead. You don't know who it is this year, and two, you don't know anyone fast enough that can do it this year. So I think for me, you're gonna have to, because not only, it's twofold, right? One, can you find a horse that can do, the maybe not Nick's horse, but can go gate to wire? And two, can you find the horses that can make this? Last year we had an epic collapse in the pace.
Mm-hmm.
Can we have that this year? And which would benefit obviously a lot of the closers who, seemingly are, in abundance. So that there's twofold. Thoughts on that? I have a couple statements on that, but I'll give it to you first. Like, thoughts on, is there any horses out there that you're interested in from a speed standpoint?
I think the big thing we got to take into account is last year we could not have handicapped what happened with those Japanese horses. And we knew there's a few speed horses from the United States for sure. But the horses that made it nuts were two horses that, how could you have ever guessed that the Japanese horses would go that fast, that early? It's crazy to me. So I'm not going to go there yet. We don't even know who's coming yet from international side of it. Guys, to me, it's reincarnate. And I agree with Sylvia. I think the key is if he can get out of the gate. And I think after that sluggish start in Arkansas, I think they will put getting him out of the gate at a premium in his next start. I think they will rush his ass out of there. I think he's the one that can set the pace and stay the longest. He's proven he can do it. He's a tough horse. I don't think he's good per se, but he's tough. And if he got out on the lead, you're going to have to work to beat him. So I think he's the one right now. Him and Go Rocket Ride are the two that are going to be kind of up there towards the front.
Yeah, and that's a perfect. Appreciate you setting me up with that one, because I definitely think Go Rocket Ride is that horse for me. At least the horse I need to see next time out. He has a lot of speed. We saw it in the San Felipe. Of course, Sajazi ended up being on the lead, but we saw in his race prior, he had a ton of early speed. You got to think they're going to try to get him more involved early as far as being on that lead. And maybe he, because one thing about it is he showed a lot of guts for his second start late in the race when he obviously was passed, but he kept on coming. So maybe if he gets a little brave on the front end, he could be dangerous. But more than that, if he makes, which really he just needs to hit the board in the San Antonio Derby, you would think at the very least, he's a very legit pace presence in the Kentucky Derby, pushing Reincarnate, pushing. Like I've seen a few comments like, if there's a Japanese horse that comes over, are they going to go Nick's horse? Fantastic again. I don't know about that one, but still, like, I think I still think there's the potential to have a nice pace in the race.
I think it's strictly 50-50 at this point. Some of these horses like Fantastic Again and King's Barnes that people are throwing out there, they're not in it right now. And so if you talk about 2 or 3 weeks, you can say, okay, now maybe they are in it or they're not, and they didn't show up. And then, I mean, if you're sitting there with Reincarnate and Go Rocket Ride, there ain't going to be a lot of pace in this race because both these horses can get to the front, but they kind of shown they don't have to go that fast. So if it's just those two, I would hate to be a dead closer. And look, we can go crazy about the Japanese horses last year. The bottom line is they have not done that in the past. We've had Japanese horses come over and they weren't rode anywhere like that in the past. Matter of fact, most of them have come from way out of it. So if we're going to sit here and talk about last year's Derby projecting forward, that's probably not the smartest thing to do. That last year was a total meltdown of epic proportions, something that we really haven't seen ever in the Kentucky Derby to that degree.
And I want to throw this stat out there. And I mentioned this stat in a comment last night on YouTube, and I think it's important in this conversation. It comes straight from John White, his Derby strike system, one of his Derby strikes, and really one of the most important ones from according to him, of course, is that eighth pole. Is the final furlong of the Kentucky Derby. You need to be in first or second. 53 of 57, I believe, is the number, have won the Kentucky Derby, being first and second. Obviously, last year didn't happen, although he was coming. But he was not in first or second, Rich Strike being. There's outliers, but 53 of 57 need to be first or second. And to be fair, like, it doesn't mean you can't come from further back. It just means you need to have yourself in a position at that point of the race with one furlong left to get to the lead or to be right there on the lead. And that's why it's so important. And like, it doesn't. I think what's important to distinguish between that is like, look at Tapit Trice for this year, for instance. Like, does it mean I think he can't win? No. But in order for him to get to be first or second with one furlong left, everything's gonna have to go right for him. Everyone's gonna have to part. The trip's gonna have to be perfect. I mean, there's just so many factors that go into the Derby that are out of the horses or jockey's control because there's 19 other horses. And when you're further back in the race, it makes it that much more difficult.
I think a lot of times people don't understand the difference between a horse that comes from out of it and like a stretch running closer. You can come from out of it and still not have to make up a huge amount of ground on the stretch because you make up a lot of ground on the turn. And so to win the Derby, you got to be in position when you round that turn. That's what that's telling you. That's not saying you can't win if you're 16th up the backside. It's just saying most of the time, the majority of the time, yes, there are outliers. There's always going to be outliers with any stats. The majority of the time, whether you're sitting 16th up the backside or you're sitting second up the backside, when there's a furlong left to run, you damn well better be in position to make up, or be in position where you don't have to pass a ton of horses down that lane at Churchill. There have been outliers. A couple of them were huge numbers, and they were huge numbers because, dead closers from stretch running closers, they just don't win it very often. And that's where Red Route 1 and Tapit Trice, two horses that you mentioned, really stand out. It's like, and really Instant Coffee for that matter. Can they make those moves on the turns? I'm not sure. You get a little bit worried about those types of horses. Yeah.
Here, I want to read this directly from, again, I mean, it's easy to quote John White because he's amazing, but in this week's blog he does with expressbet.com, just to put this in, because we can transition to Tapit Trice a little bit here. Tapit Trice was 4.25 lengths off the lead at the eighth pole in the Tampa Bay Derby. 4.25 lengths off the lead at that eighth pole. Of course, that was not a mile and quarter race. Anyways, at the eighth pole, winning a race, the furthest stretch runner, Zenyatta, the furthest she was ever out of a race. Now remember, like, Zenyatta is at least in our day and age, is the quintessential come from behind, does all the running late like Tapit Trice. She's that horse. The furthest she was ever in a mile and eighth race in her 19 victories was 4.5 lengths. So pretty much the same. And we're talking about Zenyatta.
Mm-hmm.
It's Tapit Trice was 4.25 lengths of the Tampa Bay Derby. And the reason I kind of bring that up is like, that's what he did is something you don't see. And I think in this, which is great, right? It was very impressive, very visually impressive, but it also say you go against tougher horses, you go against a lot stiffer competition, or maybe factors like the Derby. You can't do that every time.
No, and even Zenyatta, who was one of the greatest closers, if not the greatest closer of all time, got beat once, and she got beat because a horse had a kick that was similar to hers, but was able to sit 4 or 5 lengths ahead of her, and she couldn't make up. Think about Forte. Tapit Trice is not going to beat Forte if Forte's like sitting 6 or 7 ahead, and they both make their moves at the same time. That means Tapit Trice has to be something unbelievable if Forte's firing and he's already ahead of him that much. That ground is just really, really tough to make up. It's a little bit easier when you're passing horses that aren't as good as you, but when you've got 2 or 3 that are just as good as you, or maybe you're even a little bit better, but they're similar to you and they're making their moves when you are, and they've already got that head start, you just can't go get them. It's almost impossible. And so that's why, tactical speed, even when you're sitting mid pack, is so much, more dangerous than if you're sitting up there, in last. So the other thing with Tapit Trice, and I keep harping on it, you need to calm down a little bit about him and see what he can do next. I don't think he's a natural closer. I just don't think he really knows exactly what he's doing. He's kind of like reincarnated in some ways to me. Ride him as hard as you can out of the gate. See if he gets positioned and see if he'll stay up there with them. We know reincarnate can. Tapit Trice, I just have this feeling if you rush him out of the gate hard and get him about mid-pack, he might just be fine sitting right there. And then if he can still make that move, he all of a sudden becomes very dangerous. We've got that in the bluegrass, an opportunity to maybe see that. Look, he's in the Derby. Why would you not try that in the bluegrass and see what happens? And I think that's what they're going to try to do. So pump the brakes on him. Don't have just a definite opinion on him until you see that one more race from him.
Well, that it's like you said, it's such an important, because to me, and if you go, to our YouTube channel, you can search or you can see my video. I did a video on Tapit Trice being a possible underlay for the Kentucky Derby, and I say in the video, like, we got to at least see one more race from him. So we got, because to me, there's such a fine line between he could legitimately be my pick to win the Kentucky Derby, or I'm going to call him a huge underlay. And it really is that simple for me, because it's like if he tries to, if they do the same thing and he's still further back, and it's like, well, there's a very easy blueprint for that. Tapit Trice will get in trouble in the Derby, bet him back in the Belmont. If they can put him in position and he shows, because the thing is, like, I think we can all agree here, there ain't no quitting him. Like, no, he'll keep coming.
Yeah,
like they can run 3 miles. That horse will keep coming. And so it's like, if you can get him in position, like you're saying, and he still has that ability to, close, then yeah, he's incredibly dangerous in the Derby. Because then all of a sudden, say, assume he gets a good post position in the Derby, and obviously Luis Saez, you would assume, would be on him still. You would think, like, gosh, that he could be super dangerous if he can be within 4 or 5 lengths of Forte.
Mm-hmm.
That changes the game from being 15 lengths behind Forte.
Well, that's exactly what I'm saying. Like I see Nick saying he's a total toss unless Saez is aboard. Saez is going to be aboard if this horse can sit mid-pack and still make that move. I'm confidently going to say that. But that's just it. And listen, these are preps for these trainers and these jockeys to learn about their horses before they get to that big race. And the big key, and you said it, even if he wins the bluegrass, but he wins it from dead last, it's just like, I'm not going to back him, But you've got that data point out there, and it's going to be really interesting to see what he can do. Honestly, like at this moment, I'm sitting here thinking I'm probably going to fade him in the bluegrass, because this motherfucker's going to be like 7-5 probably in that range when I see probables. And it's like, I don't think that he should be that price, So now again, we don't even know who's going to be there yet, but that's just kind of my thought process as of right now.
And Pletcher, even I've seen a few comments about Saez, and Pletcher's even said, like, Saez is the perfect jockey for this horse, and and there's a good reason why, because look how he rides him. He's such a, if you aren't real familiar with it, it's such a, you got to watch, like, you look around, if you kind of watch the Tampa Bay Derby, you look at him and you look at the other horses around him, the jockeys typically have just a handle of a horse. They're just kind of riding the horse and keeping the horse kind of at bay. It's a different ball game with Tapit Trice.
Yeah.
You gotta keep him engaged. Like you said, remind him what he's actually doing in the race.
He's got to be a hard horse to ride from just physically. And I totally agree with what Nick said earlier. Saez is really one of the ones you would trust. You got to have a jockey you could really trust and really know he's just going to ride the shit out of him. And it's, I told you when we were talking about this off the air after the race Saturday, I said, he really only ran in a few spots. In one spot where he really picked up his feet is when all of a sudden he's like 5 behind the second to last horse and Saez is getting after him. He made up that ground quick. He went from 5 behind that horse to a couple ahead of that horse pretty quickly. Then he shut it off again. And then they're asking him around the turn and he's not really doing it. And then all of a sudden it looks like, well, he's just shut it down for the day. He picks up his feet in the stretch again. There were only about 2 spots where he actually did any running. The rest of the time, his head was kind of just in the clouds a little bit.
Yeah, and I want to, Shawty, I'll bring up your comment real fast because I want to see him if he can beat more proven horses. Well,
yeah,
isn't that the case for almost every horse right now? Forte maybe not, but Practical Move, who does he beat? I get he beat a bunch of Bob Baffert horses. He beat Carmel Road 2 back. He beat some bullshit horse, Hijazi. I mean, Go Rocket Ride might be good, but that was his first start in a stakes race. Like we a lot of these horses. Now I'll give you that. Like he was more impressive, obviously. Practical Move. I think he's visual as right now. He's better. But my point is a lot of these horses, can they? And that's why these last 100-point races are so important for all these horses because they beat more proven horses. We don't have a lot of proven horses, so we don't know who they can beat.
Yes, I think there's different degrees of it, but overall, yes. Like Practical Move, he beat more horses that we think are good, but we don't know for sure they're good, right? Like, do you think Tappa Trice would have beaten Go Rocket Ride if Go Rocket Ride was in the Tampa Bay Derby? I don't.
Probably not.
Yeah.
No, probably not.
And I think that's kind of to Shotty's point where I would tend to agree with her. But I could play both sides of it and agree with you some as well, Jared, because other than Forte, there hasn't been a lot of horses that it's like, okay, that's a good horse that horse just beat and we know it.
Yeah. Yeah. To be very fair, the San Felipe was a much better race than the Tampa Bay Derby. So give me the top 2 finishers of that race over Tappa Trice. Right now. Even though Go Rocket Ride in my rankings, I do have below Tappa Trice, just frankly, because he lost and Tappa Trice won his prep race. But I do have Practical Move ahead of Tappa Trice. And Go Rocket Ride is right there behind Tappa Trice in my ranking, Instant Coffee and Tappa Trice. So I do think I learned that he's a good horse, but I learned that he's got a lot to prove in the Bluegrass. Tappa Trice from that race. That's really what I learned from that race.
Yeah. To me, it's just a matter of, are you just a closer or can you get a little bit closer to the pace? And I'm not saying get on the lead, but can you sit where like Forte sits, for example? Because if he can, it's a different ball game.
There's no other, to me, maybe Reincarnate. I don't know, but there's no other horse and I can, in this crop, maybe Practical Move, I guess, that I think there's such a fine line going into the last prep of him being really, really good or not. Like, I think he's the one. Tappa Trice for me is, like you said, is he like legit Derby winner good? Or is he like, 10th Derby in the Derby, because he just can go further than most of them.
Yeah.
I think that the fine line, and obviously Practical Move, has to prove it going longer, but he's shown that he's really good. And in Red Route 1 to me, it's like, I kind of feel like I know what he is. Whereas Tappa Trice, I don't.
See, it's interesting because I feel like Instant Coffee and Red Route 1, I feel the same way. It's like, I kind of know what they are, I think,
Yeah.
And then you get some of the others. It's like, I'm not sure what Practical Move is yet. We saw that great performance once. We've seen a lot of great performances once, and then we don't really see that kind of level again. So really a question mark on him. I still kind of have a question mark over Reincarnate. If he gets the right trip in the Arkansas Derby, if he can maybe win that race, what is he? Hit Show is a huge question mark to me because he didn't face much in the Withers. If he faces a little bit better horses in the Wood, what will he look like? And then you're right, and I can't argue it. The biggest question mark is still Tapit Trice. He's going to be the big mystery horse going into the last round.
If you're interested, I have, you can go ahead and book it. I don't know if you can book it anywhere. I have the Triple Crown winners. Like I got the paper here.
Okay.
I got it listed. The script, right? I found the script. I know who's going to win each leg.
I'm ready. Yes.
Okay. Well,
I'm interested.
Obviously, yeah. Write this down. Obviously, Kentucky Derby. They've already got it. I mean, Forte is a foregone conclusion, so he's going to win the Derby.
Okay.
It's a lot like Nyquist. But we're going to have this really interesting rematch in the Preakness, and Cave Rock is going to show up and win that for Bob Baffert. Bob Baffert, not Yak Team. And then in the Belmont, you're going to have no Forte in the race because he won't want to go that long. But Cave Rock will be there. And Tapit Trice nails him at the wire. So that is your you got the two Todd Pletchers and you got Baffert in the middle. That's your Triple Crown right there.
Okay. All right. Well, Cave Rock winning the Preakness. That's, you can mark that one down for sure. That's going to know. I'm very interested to see where Cave Rock starts this year because
me too.
You've got to think now that we've got a lot of workouts into him now. He's probably 2 to 3 weeks, just guessing. I have no knowledge on it, but 2 to 3 weeks away from a start. You're probably not going to start him in the Standing to Derby first race out. Where does he start? Well, how does he look? And you got to think the Preakness is in the back of their minds right now, or in the front of their minds probably right now.
Oh, like to me, assuming again, we don't really know, but assuming he's okay, and I don't know how you're not thinking Preakness. Bob Baffert owns that race. He obviously is a really good at getting horses to run to run huge there, even when, like if they didn't win in the Derby or if they won in the Derby. We've seen that too,
right?
Obviously, but I think to me, Cave Rock, and you might have a couple others, right? You might have several Bob Bafferts in the race, but Cave Rock is, and that would be such a great storyline too, to have him come back, and now you've got him in the race versus Forte, who just won the Kentucky Derby, and they got the rematch that we've all been wanting to see. That would be no matter what happens, that would be a fascinating race. That'd be a great Preakness, because a lot of times the Preakness sucks when you haven't. If you have a horse like Forte, who I think many would believe, and myself included, that would have a legit chance, right, to win the Triple Crown, or at least run for the Triple Crown.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden here you bring in Cave Rock.
Yeah, a fresh Cave Rock.
Cave Rock. That would be fun.
That would be a lot of fun. Yeah, it would be a lot of fun, and I'm here for it. And I think it would be kind of funny if that happened, honestly, and he beat him. So I live my life now for the Twitter meltdowns from horse racing Twitter, and I always root for what will make horse racing Twitter go nuts, and that would make it. They might break it if that happened.
Yeah, be like, you know what, and by the way, he's back now after this, right? Because the ban's over after this year of the Derby, and it's like, hey, remember me? Like, just won the Preakness, you fuckers.
well, isn't it funny? Like the 2 years that they ban him. Last year Messier wasn't any good, and say what you want about his other horse, but Taba, but it's like it just wasn't the right time, right? And then this year, all of his horses that would have been like prime contenders aren't going. That they're not. Cave Rock didn't make it back in time. Arabian Nights got problems.
Yeah.
And now you're left with, well, they'll send Reincarnate maybe. And it's like, I don't think anybody, at least at this time, thinks he's got any shot. So it's interesting how it worked out.
But The one thing that the one thing I'd say is if and I don't know, with the Yak team, I have different opinions, but if it was Bob Baffert, like, doesn't reincarnate like he's a little bit would be like a little bit like Medina Spirit, where it's like he goes in the race, and all year you're thinking, he's not as good as the rest of these, and then he gets in the Derby and he's the pace presence and gets brave on the front end. Like if it's Bob Baffert, I would have serious thoughts about reincarnate winning the Kentucky Derby, but I don't know that I'm going to do that with Yak Team.
Yeah, I would agree. I think his next race is critical because we saw a pretty damn good performance in the Sham, and that horse that he beat came back to win, so that was even better. The Rebel is one of those races where it's like, did he run really well, or did all those other horses just kind of stop because it's nasty and they're not very good anyway? And what is he after that? That was a real. It wasn't. It was encouraging, but it wasn't like, oh, he's really good type of thing, But yeah, if he runs really well in the Arkansas Derby, he's going to come in there under the radar, kind of fourth, fifth choice, kind of like Medina Spirit, and he might go out there, depending on the pace, he might go out there and take him gate to wire.
And Christopher, I agree. This Travers, it could be you have like Loggins, maybe extra Neho, which he's like all over the track all the time, but he's not officially working and obviously not going to make the Derby or probably any Triple Crown race at this point. But he's obviously you would seemingly have loads of talent coming back. And then, of course, whatever happens through this Triple Crown, maybe Bob Baffert brings a horse over. There's a lot of really good horses that could show up for the Travers. I agree. That Travers, good thing we'll be there.
I was going to say, always buy Travers tickets. I mean, that's the best day of the year. B, it usually is one of the best races of the year, every year, no matter what. And yeah, I think this year more than ever, it looks like it's going to be something special.
All right. All right. Not final pick, but final pick for today. Who is your Derby horse right now?
I mean, I'm sticking with Forte, and I'm being very boring about it, but I do go into the last 3 weeks of this thing starting next week and I think we can beat him, but I just got to see somebody that can do it. And I just haven't yet. So I'll stick with Forte.
Yep. I'm with you. He's my pick. And I've said it all along. He's been my number one horse all year. And it's just like, you know what, until proven otherwise, he's going to have to be my horse, right? If he goes, like, it's going to take a really special performance by somebody in one of these final preps, or unless obviously he doesn't win the Florida Derby, for me to jump off of him. Mm-hmm. Just plain and simple that way. So Forte for me as well. We are just weeks away to figuring out more about who's in, who's out. Obviously, the Kentucky Derby Trail picks back up next week. Stay tuned for that. We got plenty of picks heading that way. But right now, that's your Kentucky Derby update. Forte for both of us.
I really, really hope, even if it's practical move, just running off the screen again or something, I just hope we see somebody that can kind of get us off of Forte. I just think I love him, and I've played him a lot over his career, but I just think he's beatable, but
yeah,
not by these horses we've seen.
But I do wonder if, and even though you would have been wrong, we would have been both wrong, but it does, a little bit like, you remember like last year, we're like, I really want to beat Epicenter. I don't think he can win. And obviously he didn't, right? But he should have. And it was like a fluke performance to get him beat. And you kind of left that race thinking, God, why did we switch to Taba? At least Epicenter ran, like he ran, like he. So it's like you kind of wonder if, don't overthink it too much, I guess is my point.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. Yeah, that's a very good point. And last year, definitely I did. Like I said, it didn't matter anyway, thankfully.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm with you, but it just, I don't want to get too wrapped up in like I said, I'm very okay with the fact of I will switch, but they're going to have to earn it. Like it's going to have to be a really nice performance in order for me to jump ship. So,
yep. I that's where I'm at. Like, I'm not gonna overcomplicate things.
Yeah, I'm not sold. I mean, I'm not like totally saying he's gonna win. I'm open to I'm open, right, to different ideas, but again, you're gonna have to show, you're gonna have to prove it. You're gonna have to have a big performance to prove it for me. So
Yep, 100%.
All right, let's do some rapid fire. We got 4 races to talk about: 2 at Oaklawn, 2 at Gulfstream. So we'll get to that. All right, time for rapid fire presented by OG Handicappers. That's right. Shirt, Ultraman's got a polo on there. OGHandicappers.net. Have you ever cashed a huge bet, Ultraman, and thought, man, I wish I had a t-shirt to commemorate this victory? You do it all the time.
Yes.
This is the apparel you've been waiting for, and it's here. OG Handicappers, OGHandicappers.net or .com, either one. This is your new face in horse racing apparel, and it also has like lifestyle stuff, casinos, cigars, betting, all kinds of stuff. It also has a women's line that you can get your hands on for all those ladies at OGHandicappers.net. Make sure you follow them on IG, Facebook, and Twitter, or go to OGHandicappers.net and get yours today. Enter promo code DUDES, DUDES, at checkout and get 10% off your order. That's OGHandicappers.net. And get, cash an exacta this weekend. Hit maybe a mutter. If you like a mutter, get a mutter shirt. Mutter. His mother was a mutter. His father was a mutter. Come on. All right. Let's go to Oaklawn Park this weekend for a couple races. We'll kick things off here. Race 9, the Essex Handicap, the main event of the day. Grade 3, 500K, 4-year-olds and up, going 1 1/16 miles. Field of 10 lined up here, Halterman. I'll give it to you. 5-2 on the coach. I think the coach is going to win one of these stakes races on Saturday, but I'm not sure it's this one. But go ahead.
I had to take him. Where else could you go that you felt great about is what it ended up for me. I had to take him. I think there's a lot of speed in the race. If he runs like he did last time out, I think he's going to win. So I did take number 10, Last Samurai, on top. Like I said, speed should be there for him to kind of close into. Thought about the Cox horses a little bit. Thought about Classic Causeway a little bit. End of the day, give me the coach in this one. I'll go number 10, Last Samurai.
So I went. I think there's an interesting play here underneath. I really like the sequence here on Saturday at Oaklawn Park. I think race 7, obviously, we'll talk about race 7 in just a second. It's an allowance race with some nice horses. Then the Whitmore, the Essex, then the maiden special weight to wrap things up. But I kind of like a single in the 7th, and I'll start here. I do like the coach. I like Last Samurai. I think from a pace standpoint, it makes a ton of sense. But dude, I'm going prices in both races, and I went with number 9, Keystone Field, to pull off an upset here for Maker. Listen, last time out was a total disaster, and this horse, coming into that race was 7-1 that day, and really was coming in very, very well. Had come off a triple-digit buyer at Oaklawn Park at the same distance at a mile 16th, winning by 4. Prior to that, ran a 90 buyer, ran a 92 prior to that, and then all of a sudden just put up a total stinker last time out. Obviously, if he runs that race, he's not going to win, but you got to think he's going to rebound off of that. Castillo and Maker, 43%. They're on fire. They run really well together. I just think if you're going to get a ton of value, I mean, this horse hasn't sniffed 15-1 in, well, really, since he's been with Maker. You're going to get value now on a horse who I still think is capable of pulling off an upset. Again, pace is going to help this horse just like it's going to help the 10. I like the 9 to pull off a pretty big upset here, Keystone Field. What did you think? Do you like this horse at all?
I liked that horse last time a little bit. I think I had him in 4th, but it was just too bad to believe last time out. So hopefully he bounces back from that.
Well, it's kind of like you say, like, to me, it's like if they ran the race and like it wasn't very good, then you're like, yeah, but the horse didn't even run, Yeah. So it's like, surely he's better than that. That's why you're getting the price. That's why you're playing the price, right?
Yeah.
In my opinion, that's why I'm willing to take it. So I'm going with the maker horse, number 9, Keystone Field, to pull off the upset in the Essex. Let's go a race prior, race 8, the Whitmore Stakes, grade 3, 200K for 4-year-olds and up. Going 6 furlongs, of course, named after the legendary Whitmore, awesome at Oaklawn Park, of course, amongst other places. All right. Another tough field here. Tail and Twist at 3-1, 9-2 on Flash Mischief, 7-2 on Cogburn. Morello makes the return here. Pratt, how about that? Jumping aboard here for Asmussen. Thoughts on this one? Another tough field.
I like Cogburn in this spot. I've always really liked this horse. Has had trouble staying healthy. That's the problem with Cogburn. Came back last time out in a pretty tough race, an allowance race, was able to win that thing. I think he moves forward off that race quite a bit. I like Cogburn in the spot. I think this horse will be higher than 7-2 as well. With all these other horses in the race that are going to take money, I think we can get like maybe 5-1. So give me Cogburn.
Yeah, the comments are going. You are hearing music. Yes. If you, for a lot of people, they probably just listen to this show and they don't, we also have a podcast, right? That's where it all started. So typically when I do rapid fire, if you've never listened to the podcast version, in post, I add this music that you can hear in the background. Well, your awesome host here thought, you know what? I'm going to add it during the live. And that's what I've done. So if you like it, we're going to leave it. I don't know. It seems like it's the right, it's always tricky when I'm doing a post to make sure it's not too loud, but yeah, I like it. Gives me a little momentum here. I feel like a little pumped up to give you a pick. How about this? I told you I'm either maybe I'm hoping at least one of these hits, right? Because I'm going prices. I told you D Wayne was going to win one of these races. I think it's this one. How about number 1? Give me old Spankster for D Wayne and Cabrera. Listen, this is a horse, it's one of those horses that D Wayne has that is seemingly has been running awful, and then gets a little bit of change of scenery, maybe a little bit shorter distance, and all of a sudden he's got the horse running really well. Back to back, really good efforts. Last time out, winning an allowance race. Prior to that, did get beat, but only by 3 1/4 lengths to Cogburn, or 3/4 lengths. I'm sorry, to Cogburn. Of course, who you picked in that allowance race. And so this is the horse who seemingly is getting better. You're getting 8-1. It's D Wayne. We've seen him pull off upsets before in this kind of race. So I'm going to take another price hunting here. That's why I said it. I like playing the favorite with my horse in the Essex. In this race, I really like Spankster, and then playing that horse with your horse. I do like Cogburn a lot too. You kind of have the pace. I love when you have a horse that's got the pace. Then you got another horse coming off another race. So I feel like the one is going to sit a nice little trip here. So give me old Spanky, number 1, Spankster. All right, let's go. I want to just real quickly talk around. Don't officially get picks here, but the race prior to this is going to kick off that 50-cent pick 4 on Saturday at Oaklawn, race 7. And this is a nice little allowance race, and it features the return of our horse here, number 6, Ain't Life Grand, for our boy Kelly Von Hemel. Of course, if you remember, who's that horse? That's the horse that, the Iowa horse that ran the Travers last year. And, of course, didn't run great. That did get a nice buyer. I don't know what the time form came back for that race, but actually got a nice buyer. Thoughts on his return in this race, Halterman?
Yeah, I'm really nervous for the race for sure, because he's definitely the big horse in the barn there, and we got personal connections with him. All I can tell you is I talked to the trainer a lot about Ain't Life Grand, and he says, look, he's training better than he ever has. He thinks he's going to have a huge year, so it's a good spot to get him started. I think he's going to run really well. I think it's just the nerves more than anything else. I kind of think the 1's going to be tough to beat in the spot. I kind of like the 1, but I've got to back Ain't Life Grand as far as rooting for the horse. I will be rooting very hard for Ain't Life Grand to win. He's doing really well. Happy to see him back, and hopefully he runs well.
Yeah, it'd be really cool to see Ain't Life Grand in a bunch of big time stakes races this year. Because obviously he's got talent, if he wins here, but I'm with you. I think the one is very dangerous for Calhoun. This horse has just rattled off 2 really impressive wins back to back. Is really fresh. I think that's dangerous, like Oaklawn. So that's kind of what I was saying in the sequence. I think the one is a possible single for me, and you could press a ticket to have him a couple prices in those next 2 races that we talked about, and then get a little interesting in that last race. But yeah, I definitely think there's some opportunity here to go value hunting in other races if you press this one a little bit. Will your horses be starting to Oaklawn, Aaron?
Yeah, we'll be hopefully about the 2nd or 3rd weekend in April. We'll be running where we've had 3 workouts for one of them and 2 workouts for the other. So about 3 works away, I would say. So yeah, middle April, I would say Husker Butch will probably run in like a 20 or 30K claimer.
What's the names of your horses?
Husker Butch is one of them, and Double Numbers is the other one if you want to follow them. They're not working out too bad. So we'll see. I would say, like I said, towards the end of April, middle of April, we'll see him. I went and pet them along with Ain't Life Grand last time I was there, and they don't look quite as good as Ain't Life Grand, Jared. They really don't.
So you didn't learn, huh? You're back at it. You just can't help yourself.
They made me money the last time, so I had to go back and do it again. They did really well. So I'm skeptical of the talent level of these horses. Let's put it that way. They're telling me they're good, or not. They didn't tell me they're good, but they're telling me, oh no, they'll be fine. They'll be competitive. I don't know.
There you go. Stable them up. We'll follow the journey.
Yeah.
And I have a feeling. Never mind. I have a feeling we'll be seeing you claiming or getting rid of some of these horses in the summer. So that's the plan, right? You win a few races, get them claimed, and make a little money.
Yeah, they're both Ontario bred. So after we win the Queen's Plate, then we'll drop them down for a claiming tag, and somebody can get them for sure. The goal anytime you have a claimer is to get them claimed. So we'll see. Yeah,
The work of the day. Oh man.
Well, it's just I went down there and I thought they were on the farm, and one of the other owners, Rich, who you know as well, he was like, "No, they're here at the track." I was like, "Well, it'd be nice if the trainer told me anything." Not like I talk to him all the time, and he never tells me about these horses. So
the horses you own, yeah, he just tells you, where to send the money.
Right. Yeah. Oh, yeah. No. Yeah. They know the deal for sure. Yeah.
All right, guys. Let's go to Gulfstream Park for race 8 on Saturday. The Hutchinson Stakes, 100K for 3-year-olds, going 6 furlongs. Field of 7 lines up here. Even money on the 3 Super Chow. What do you think of this one? I thought looking at this race, he was going to be awfully tough to catch. Thoughts?
I'll be shocked if Super Chow loses this race. The last time out, this horse ran really, really well and got beat by a really, really nice horse who I was really disappointed scratched in the Fountain of Youth, General Jim I'm talking about. But without General Jim, Super Chow would have won that last race by open lengths. I mean, ran very well. I think this horse runs really well again. I like Super Chow here. I don't think it'll be too much of a problem.
Yeah, honestly, when I handicapped it, no morning line, so obviously it's a bummer to see even money, but I had this horse as a clear standout. Everything I looked at is he's a clear standout. I think he's super fast, and there's just no one that can catch him. I think he's shown that this horse absolutely blazes. And while I do agree there's speed in the race, there's not this kind of speed. So I'm with you. I think it'll be pretty surprising if this horse gets caught. I like General Jim. I think that's a nice horse. So to get beat by that one, it's nothing, no issue for me. So I like Super Chow here a lot at even money. Number 3, Super Chow. All right, let's go to race 11. The Silks Run Stakes, 100K for 4-year-olds and up, going 5 furlong turf sprint here to wrap up rapid fire. And what else? Field 12. Easy enough, right? Ultimately, you got 5-2 on Big Invasion. That Big Invasion makes a nice little return to the stakes. Thoughts on this horse, and can he pull off the win even off of the bench?
I think so. I like Big Invasion in this spot. And a lot of it is I don't like a lot of the other runners all that well here. Although I will probably go 2 to 3 deep in this spot. But I do like number 9, Big Invasion on top here. The horse had just been reeling off win after win. Took him to dumb Kentucky Downs and ran to a distance that I don't think he really liked, or a track that he liked. He didn't run very well. Well, draw a line through that. I don't care about that one. The rest of these have been good. You know, he has a couple wins here at Gulfstream. He won at Churchill. He won at Belmont. He won at Saratoga. I'm excited for this horse. I think he's going to improve as a 4-year-old. So give me Big Invasion on top.
Yeah, I really like him here. I think the pace of this race is just, it should be blazing. They should be flying. There are several horses in here who love to put up 21-44. They should be moving. And Big Invasion, he's fast enough. My only concern is just off the bench. How will he be geared up enough? But Clement does a great job off the bench, and obviously it looks like he's working out really well. But he's got enough ability early on to be close enough in these fast races, and then he obviously can put him away late. So I think the pace sets up really, really nice. Magic wants to know for any love for Belgrano off the pace.
Yeah, I think this is one that can close. It certainly just kind of feels like a race where it could melt down. I don't know if he's quite good enough. But I do think the pace is really going to help. And look, he can really fly late, so I don't hate him.
Yeah, if it's a total meltdown, I mean, obviously anything could happen. I think it might be a little bit of a cut below.
That's yeah.
I'm kind of wondering if he can't quite, if he's going to be too far back early in the race, and not be able to, it's one thing to close down some of these horses, but I mean, if Big Invasion shows up, if Big Invasion doesn't show up, then obviously I think this thing could get nutty because these horses are going to be flying. But if he shows up, it's going to take a big effort to try to beat him. So yeah, I don't know that I'm kind of with you. I don't know that I would be. I think Karatari is interesting. Likes to be on the lead, but also can kind of sit off a little bit. And Irad jumps aboard, which I think is pretty interesting. Runs really well for Lynch at 4-1. So I kind of like that one as well. But again, I'm on Big Invasion here, just like you.
He did it.
How are these games going?
Oh, these are going to come down to the wire as far as bets go. West Virginia's up 3 with 5 minutes left. Their price was -2.5, so they're barely covering. And then Furman is down 7 with 9 minutes to go, and Furman was +6. So both games so far are going to come down to that last second. It looks like for the spread.
Well, it's always tough in March Madness, as you know. I mean, towards the end of these games, especially when it comes to the spreads, right? You got to take in factor this is it. This is the last game. So you're gonna need tons of fouling, tons of free throws.
Yeah,
you got to make your free throws, right? But the spreads, man, can be live or die by these 3 free throws at the end of these games.
Yeah, they're both going to be rough. I've been peeking in on the Furman game. Virginia is clearly the better team. Furman's just kind of being pesky. So if you pick Virginia to win the game, I don't think you've got a lot to worry about. I think they're going to do it. If you pick Virginia -6, I think or if you pick Furman +6, it's just going to come down to luck, basically. And this West Virginia game has been back and forth. It's anybody's guess.
Man, I'm kind of glancing at this late pick 4 at Oaklawn. That last race at maiden special weight is. So I think you could go if you go thin. If you press a ticket, you go thin the first 3 legs, and you got to go deep here. This last leg is impossible. Some first-time starters, not very good horses that have ran. Moquette's got one in there that's interesting, the first-time starter. But yeah, it's a tough sequence that last race. But I definitely think you could make some money here.
It's a tough sequence for sure. It's kind of like that Gulfstream Park pick 6 carryover the other day, or our mandatory payout, I should say. It was hard to know when to go short and when not. You kind of felt like, hey, if I played a caveman 4x4x4x4, I'll hit it. but narrowing down which race to go shorter in was the problem. And I feel like the same way with Oaklawn. You're probably going to be around it, but what horse do you lean on, and can that horse win is going to be the key.
Yeah. Well, we'll find out, right?
That's right.
So that's all the time we have. Check us out at racingdudes.com for free picks and premium selections on our products page. Click the Get Racing Dudes premium button at the menu at racingdudes.com to learn more. Remember, you can follow us on Twitter at @racing_dudes, Instagram and Facebook. You can find all episodes of Blinkers Off by visiting our podcast page on the website, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcast, or on YouTube. Just search YouTube /Racing Dudes, or search Racing Dudes in the YouTube search, and you find us. And make sure you subscribe, make sure you like, make sure you hit the notification bell so you get alerted when we go live or have more content related to anything, but especially the Kentucky Derby. We have the Essex Handicap preview, full preview, the kind of you see in the guides, available for free at racingdudes.com. You'll see that pop up there. It'll also be in your email as well. Magic Mike Show, what are they doing? Magic, what are you doing?
Late pick 5 on Saturday from Gulfstream Park.
Saturday, late pick 5 at Gulfstream Park. There you go. Not Oaklawn. No
Oaklawn. No.
Man. Let's see. Final thoughts, Halterman. What you got going on?
Not a whole lot today. Final thought wise, I think everybody's going to be focused on this tournament. There are really good sequences on Friday, Saturday, Sunday in horse racing too. So I think everybody's going to be pretty busy betting this weekend on those two things for sure. Like I said on the daily show, weekends like this, you got so much stuff going on. Make sure to stick to what you know and what you do best. Don't get distracted by all the bright lights of all the stuff you could bet on. So, that's my best advice for weekends like this, where you could go a ton of different ways.
Magic says Samich won't let him play Oaklawn until they get back on the turf.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Samich is he's not a huge Oaklawn fan.
Well, I thought you were the host, Magic. I just tell Halterman what we're doing, and he does it.
Yeah, exactly.
It's
really not that hard.
Got a man out, Magic. All right, make sure you tune in for that 4:00 Central. And of course, I don't know. I'll be traveling a little bit today, taking the boys on a little mini vacation with spring break. But I will be trying to watch these games. That's the thing. Like for me, I don't have time to watch them in full. But I'll be like, as soon as we get off here, I'm gonna go turn on the Maryland game.
Right.
So I'm gonna see every one of these at the end. If I try telling Mike what to do, he'll just leave me for these.
Well, you'd have to have an offer first, Magic, before he could leave you.
Magic, you don't give yourself enough credit.
I don't know if Magic knows how the world works, but I can't just leave Jared for ESPN. I can't just walk in and say, "Hey, I left Jared. I'm here now." I have to have an offer first.
Yeah, what would we call it then? The Magic. Who would fill in?
Papa Dude.
The Papa Magic, the Papa Magic Show.
Yes, precisely.
I don't know. The better answer is don't do it.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't want to deal with it.
No.
So, the Magic Feldman Show. I mean, Nick, you did a good job last week. That was good.
Yeah.
I mean, really anybody, just because, Magic can't pick winners. So anybody to help would be great.
Well, Feldman, for the first time in forever, they got a win on that show. So I think the Magic Feldman Show would probably, I don't think anybody would be too upset about it.
That's true.
So
really all people care about is if you have a winner.
Yeah, I mean, people watched Ricky because he was winning. I don't think it was because of his personality.
Well, sure as hell wasn't because of his personality.
No, so that's proof right there. They just want winners.
Well, when you stop winning, they leave.
Yep.
All right, guys. Thanks everybody for tuning in. Make sure you again check out the Magic Mike Show later on this afternoon. Good luck to everybody in the tournament. If you are in the Race to Dudes tournament bracket, you get a swag bag. Is that what it is? If you win that thing. So good luck to everybody that's playing in that. And again, we'll be back next week to talk lots more. We'll be back on the Derby trail. So thanks everybody for tuning in. I'm Jared Welch, Aaron Halterman. We'll see you next week.